what an amazing woman. Meg, thanks for sharing your story. You know, for going through something so traumatic and turning it into, you know, something so positive for, you know, everyone to be involved in. I think it's amazing. Like, thank you. My sister also was a victim, you know, of rape. So she could talk now. I know she'd be on board. So thank you so much for sharing that. I know it's not easy getting up here in front of people, as you know, public speaking is the number one fear of mankind. But to get up and share something so personal is amazing. Sorry, sad to say that. My name is Arthur Little. I'm a national presenter at AIME, which stands for the Australian Indigenous Mentoring Experience. I'm a Wiradjuri Man, which means I'm a visitor right here today. This land here is Gadigal land, the grass tree people of the Eora Nation. The Gadigal people are made up of one of 29 clans, which is bounded by the Hawkesbury River to the north, the Georges River to the south, and the Nepean River to the west. Sorry, that's blown me away, that story, but I will move on to mine and what I do. I'm going to tell a little bit about my story too and where I come from. My family grew up on a mission in Griffith, which is down in New South Wales, and you know, it was pretty poverty-stricken down there. And my mum decided, you know, one day that she wanted to move out of that mission and give me and my brothers and sisters an opportunity in life of education, you know, opportunities. My father was a professional boxer. My mum worked in the Department of Housing, and he also worked on the railway. So one day on that mission, my mum packed up the car. My dad came home from work and she said, you know, we're moving. Are you coming with us? And Dad luckily made that choice to jump in the car and move to Wagga, which is where I was sort of brought up. I moved from Wagga at the age of 14, where I was lucky enough to be given an opportunity to play for Illawarra Steelers, which is where I forged my professional rugby league career and professional rugby union career. So I played with the Canberra Raiders. I also played with the New South Wales Waratahs and the Australian Sevens. So I was lucky enough to travel around the world, you know, stay in 5-star motels, and for the first time as a young Koori kid, eat at you know, 5-star buffets. So I was going back and forwards to the buffets a few too many times, and I got told to sort of ease up because I'd never seen so much food, like the food that's fallen down over there on the table. But it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. You know, I was traveling around the world. It was really cool, and all through school I didn't really know the importance of education, and because I was so good at sport, I sort of got taken through school, and I got handed my Year 12 certificate without even sitting an exam, would you believe it or not. So that was really cool at the time. I moved to Sydney to forge my career at the Waratahs. I was number one sort of fullback behind a bloke named Matty Rogers, and they said, you know, you're next. You're gonna play for the Waratahs, and I've already played 5 games, and they said Matty's going to sign a contract somewhere else, and you're going to take his spot. And at that time, unfortunately, my sister was a victim of domestic violence, and she's now a vegetable because of that incident. And I decided to go back home and back to Wagga and stay for 2 years. So I didn't play footy for 2 years. I worked in a school as a teacher's aide with a lot of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander kids. And you know, it was then I was lucky enough to then get a contract to play in Italy. So I still got asked to go over to Italy and play in the Super 10 and Heineken Cup. And I thought, yeah, I'll take that, because I knew that my sister would still want me, you know, to go on with my career. So I moved over to Italy, lived in the Piazza in Parma, and you know, got to speak the language and had to you know, learn how to talk it real quick, because you know, when you go to a different culture, as you guys would probably know, you go to a different country, you need to adapt, and you need to be able to talk to the locals. And they didn't speak much English, but I had to learn how to speak Italian basically, and I had one of the best times of my life travelling around all the different places in Europe. And I then came back, and I was like, you know, what I really want to do is give back to community and give back to Aboriginal people, which is what I'm passionate about. And my brother went through the Koori Mail, which is an Aboriginal newspaper, and he said, well, what do you think about this job? It was called the NACLO, Aboriginal Community Liaison Officer, where you work with the police and the community to strengthen those relationships. And I said, I've never heard of it. And he said, yeah, but it'd be good. That's what you like, working with the community, talking to people. I said, okay, I'll go for it. I came back to Maroubra, went in for the interview, and I got the job. So I've been working there for 2 years, strengthening relationships with the community out of La Perouse. And it was then my mate started AIME in 2005. He had this idea. He was a student at Sydney University, and he kept on getting asked by the academic staff, you know, why aren't there more Indigenous people in the room? And he's like, mate, I don't know. Like, what are you asking me for? I'm only 17. So he went back and he thought about that, and he looked into the stats, and kids were dropping out in year 9 and 10, you know, 14, 15-year-olds, whether you're Indigenous or non-Indigenous, people drop out at that age. And he came up with the idea of getting 25 of his mates and going down to the local school in Redfern, which is Alex Park, and, you know, mentoring year 9 kids and trying to get them through year 10. So he spoke to the principal there and he said, you know, can I come and work with your kids? And she said, sure. These kids are only coming to school, you know, for 2 to 3 days a week. Any help would do. So we got 25 of his mates, non-Indigenous and Indigenous, went down to this school, and he walked in the room with these young, you know, 15-year-old kids, and they're all in the room like, too cool, like, you know, who are these guys, you know, here to work with us, and what are you going to do for us? And it took about an hour, you know, for the connection to work, but, you know, that's when the magic happened. It was young people working with young people, and, you know, these kids started coming to school for like 3, 4, you know, 5 days a week, and they were starting to get through their grades, and everyone started to hear about what we were doing with these kids, and the principal was going, well, what's next? You know, like, they're about to go into year 10. How can we make this work? And Jack, we didn't have any money at that stage, and Jack was, you know, searching for money. He had $2,000 or something to try and come up with all the materials and that sort of stuff. But so it started from there, 2005, and fast forward now to 2014. We're now working with 3,500 kids across the country. We're working out of 6 states, working out of 16 universities. And what we do is support Indigenous kids through year 10, year 12, and on to university. And me being a national presenter, I'm lucky enough to travel across the country and present sessions, you know, to these kids. Year 9's about engagement, trying to engage those kids. So we use hip hop, art, drama, respect, and Aboriginality sessions. Year 10's more leadership, so they might do their first speech as Prime Minister. And year 11 and 12 is really talking about resilience and where they want to be in the next couple of years, and how we get them through to university, TAFE, or, you know, further education. I think we're doing an amazing job at that, and I think, you know, how I tie into the beds of burning is, you know, Peter Garrett talks about the time is right to do what's right, and I think it's time that we do support our Indigenous kids, you know, through year 10, through to university, because I know as a young kid, university was an option for me. No one in my family had ever gone to university. I didn't even know what university was. You know, I was lucky enough to be going to school. My parents that came before me, you know, weren't allowed to have those opportunities at school, and, you know, that's where it comes from. I think it's the people that have come before us have paved the way for us to have the opportunities that we have today, and if we can all stand together here, you know, as a group, as Australians, and we can support our Indigenous kids to get through school at the same rate as every Australian child, I think it's going to have a better Australia. So, you know, thanks for listening to my story today, and all the other guys. There's ways that you can support AIME as well. We've got National Hoodie Day, which has just gone past, which is where we sell hoodies to raise more money for our programs. And we've also got a cool event coming up in December, which is, you know, we've got a pretty young crowd here, so that's awesome. So this one's probably for you. It's called Strut the Streets, where we basically walk through the city in our bikinis and, you know, our budgie smugglers. So budgie smugglers come on board, and you buy a pair of smugglers or smugglettes, and all that money goes to creating more programs across the country. So we're planning to get to Northern Territory. Our goals in 2018 are to be reaching 10,000 kids. So, you know, there's a way that you can connect with us, or you can go on our website. But thanks so much for listening to me. As behind me, this is my son here, Noah. He too is a Wiradjuri Man, just like me. He's 8 months. And the reason I put him up there is because, you know, obviously he's everything to me. He's my world, and I get a bit nervous up here in front of crowds sometimes. So that's my strength. So thanks for listening. If you've got any questions, I'm going to be around, so I'll talk to you then. Cheers.